Now, about 3% of disadvantaged farming households in the Eastern Cape have reported severe food insecurity. This is according to a recent report. Joining us now to unpack this report is Dr. Xolisile Ngumbela, who is a senior researcher at the University of Johannesburg School of Public Management, Governance and Public Policy. Thank you for making time, Dr. Ngumbela. How bad is the situation in the Eastern Cape? It's been characterized by some as being at war zone levels.
Good afternoon, Mr. Manyatela and your viewers at home. The situation is catastrophic in the Eastern Cape, and in 2020 it was reported that 9.3 million South Africans in the province, in South Africa, are facing an acute malnutrition, and especially in the urban nodes. And at first, Mr. Manyatela, the problem was taken to be in the rural, in the rural areas, only to find out the malnutrition has moved and has also included the urban areas, where you'll find out the child malnutrition and also the starvation is the order of the day. And the children are dying in numbers. And I must dare say to you, this is unnecessary and uncalled for. If and only if our politicians can do due diligence, the situation can be avoided. In August this year, we had in the province a human rights commission trying to find out the root cause. And also it's disappointing, as you know, that the Section 28 of our own constitution is talking to this malnutrition. And this acute malnutrition is bad, especially on the children, because they will be standing and also they will be wasting and also there would be obesity. And you know, once you talk of standing and wasting on the kids, you must know we won't have professors of tomorrow and we won't have captains that will captain our teams. And the province also, we are told that they returned 372 million back to Treasury instead of the food parcels. And also, Mr. Manyatela, if and only if the government in the Eastern Cape, they can be integrated and act in a fashion, because these children that are dying in numbers, you are told that their mothers are young, because you know that these kids are sexually active very early and they are unable to breastfeed. And I must say the first 1,000 days of in children are very much important, especially when taking the nutrients. Yeah. And these young mothers that are not breastfeeding, they are at school and they have never attended the prenatal and the postnatal clinics. And amongst the findings that we found in the province, especially in the hospitals, you will find out even the nurses in the clinics are not well trained to detect the malnutrition of these kids, because there are no tape measures to measure them, and the scales are not working. So the tools of the trades are not within the clinics. And also these nurses that are in the clinics that are supposed to do this basic minimum to discover early and see these kids, you'll find that they are not trained. The only nurses that are trained in these are the pediatric nurses. And it leaves us in this situation. And also, what is exacerbating the situation in the Eastern Cape province is your climate change, is your COVID, and also is the poverty, that intergenerational poverty the province has been facing. But suffice to say, in South Africa, we are told that at a national level, we are food secured. And therefore, if we are food secured, those foods that are going to the landfills, instead, they should be taken to the rural poor provinces like the Eastern Cape. And it's very much surprising and also very much dehumanizing to find out a department like social development is turning away such large sums of money instead of coming up with food parcels.
Yeah.
And therefore, Mr. Manyatela, as well, I must say, some of these young mothers, they don't even have the IDs so that they can apply for the grant at the social development. So the situation is very much disappointing. It's unnecessary and it's uncalled for.
Yeah.
And yet it's happening in the urban nodes. How much more it is in the rural areas.
Yeah, I think we understand well now why you initially described it as catastrophic. It's sounding to me, Dr. Ngumbela, that there are going to be a lot of systematic changes. What is it going to take for government to realize how catastrophic and unnecessary the situation is, and they've got to respond urgently? Because from the sense I'm getting, there's no political will. They don't think it's as urgent and catastrophic as you've described.
I think, Mr. Manyatela, for me, it would be a matter of going back to the basics, where what we need to do is to take those unemployed South Africans, especially the youth, at least to go back into the land. And also the Department of Agriculture must come into the fore, and the Department of the Land Affairs must come into the fore. And there are vast lands in the province, and nobody knows whom they belong to. The municipality will tell that they belong to me, and other government departments, they belong to them. And instead, we need communities to come together and form a co-ops. And Mr. Manyatela, just a plot, even just the size of your bedroom door, can do so that the kids can get just the basic minimum out of the land. And it's not expensive if the agricultural extension officers can come into the fore and assist the communities into planting those. And Mr. Manyatela, I presented a paper in October. It was talking about the issues of sustainability and continuity. And I was looking at the Krisani, the cropping problem. And you'll find out even then, you'll find out the agricultural extension officers, those few that we have in the system, are staying in the offices because they don't have government vehicles. Then you start to ask yourself, are we serious about this issue? What is it that we're doing? What are we discussing? And also the province does have the anti-poverty strategy, and it's being implemented. How is it implemented? Who is implementing it? And Mr. Manyatela, also, local government is not doing anything about poverty, and yet poverty is happening at a space.
Which brings me to this question then. Yeah, which
it's
brings,
national and provincial.
Yeah, which brings me to this question, Dr. Ngumbela. Is the local government capable of comprehensively responding as required? Do you think that this is something that can be coordinated at a local level? Because you're saying that monies are being returned, over 3.7 million rand back to Treasury, instead of that money being used to respond to some of these challenges you're raising. So at a local level, is that government at that local level capable of responding, or do you need national intervention?
First of all, Mr. Manyatela, what we must understand is that a development is happening at a space, and local government is the government that is closer to the people. And also, if these these councillors we have, and these councillors are true to their calling in the local municipalities, and I think what we need here, it's a partnership, both the local, provincial, the national, and the big businesses, so that we can all at the same time deal with the issue of food insecurity in the province. And also, the Department of Higher Education and Training must come into the fore, because we'll find out whatever they are producing, and the big business will tell you that whoever is producing, type of students you are producing, they are not responding to what the country needs. And also, Mr. Manyatela, the puzzle between government and the business, that who must create employment, because big business by nature, theirs is to get profit. And the government will say, we're not the employers, we're not supposed to employ. So therefore, what we need, it's all heads on the deck. And if we want to make change, let the politicians buy into this food insecurity and take it seriously and be made part of their performance agreements. Then we see who is lagging behind, and then we would see who is not taking this issue serious. Because climate change is here to stay with us, and also the effects of COVID-19 is here, and also the poor skill set we have as a country is also here. So the government must take the lead, especially national, must take the lead and lead us into a destination that we wanted. Because even the Constitution, Section 28, also look at Section 10, your Chapter 2, the Bill of Rights, the dignity. And these kids now, their dignity is being tampered with as young as they are. And they can't grow secured, food secured, and be what they want to be in their own country of birth.
Yeah, and the sooner government responds, the better. Dr. Xolisile Ngumbela, Senior Researcher at the University of Johannesburg School of Public Management, Governance and Public Policy. Thank you for making time.